Hey folks, my name is Pravus and welcome to more Plague Inc. Evolved Custom Scenarios. I got a request to try out a scenario by a member of the community. It is called Carmen's Embrace, and I know full well I am stepping into a trap. Not a trap intentionally laid by the author, it's more just I recognize what this symbol is, and I know that I am walking into something I'm not really very familiar with. This is Lobotomy Corporation, which is one of those games that has kind of a strong niche following. Very good reviews on Steam. If you like the game, you really like the game, and you kind of proselytize it a little bit. I tried it out a while back in a private stream, and I will say I decided it was not for me. Most of us came away feeling kind of unimpressed, but that's just us. A lot of people really do like the game. I'm stepping into it knowing full well this could be a repeat of the Undertale situation where I say some stuff that shows I don't really appreciate the source material the same way the rest of the people do, and then I get lambasted. Hopefully not. We'll find out. I mostly want to see, is the scenario itself actually any good? Let's go for a very brief description though. Cogito was a special singularity of the Lobotomy Corporation. When injected into a person, it allowed for the extraction of that person's ideas into a physical form, namely the abnormalities and ego, though the subject usually does not survive the process. That's the entire point of Lobotomy Corporation, extracting energy as a source, right, from those abnormalities to power the city up above. And then there's a whole bunch of other things that go into it after that. Created after Carmen's death, it was continuously extracted from her nervous system. She intended it to be a step towards the seed of light. That's a whole plot point I don't want to get into, which would allow people to willingly draw forth their ideas into reality without harm. Luckily, it was mostly contained by Angela's by the way, that's the AI companion slash assistant from the Lobotomy Corporation game, and also a major character in the sequel, Libraries of Runa. Intervention limited to 3 days of exposure, right? I'm not sure just from the definition of why this is a bad thing. Seems like it's lucky it was contained. It doesn't sound like a bad thing. Sounds like if it worked, it was actually a good thing. But again, I don't know the source material, so I don't know. Fragmented L-Corp data has surfaced describing a substance known as Cogito, capable of drawing out the human psyche into physical form. Records reference a large-scale activation of the Seed of Light, later interrupted. Process was deemed unstable. Multiple wings and associations have begun investigating reports of anomalous psychological disturbances. Standard containment measures appear ineffective. Increased awareness correlates with accelerated spread. That means absolutely nothing to me. So we'll just go ahead and pretend it's fine. Abnormalities, oh my god, are physical manifestations of the human psyche formed into an individual formed when an individual is unable to stabilize under the effects of Cogito. These entities act according to distorted aspects of thought, emotion, or desire, posing significant risk. Yeah, oh my god. Lobotomy Corporation was a wing responsible for energy production. Okay, cool. It served this through the origin of Cogito, the Seed of Light project, operating a strict secrecy due to the risks involved. Oh my god! Ego refers to successful manifestation of the human psyche in a controlled and stable form. Individuals whose teeth state retain agency over the actions of the process of possesses extreme states in the main of the body. Can we please play the game? The Sight of Light was a large-scale project intended to bring about the fundamental change of humanity by individuals confronted with themselves. It was aimed to create a world where people can act freely without fear. Are we done? The development of Cogito was a step of fatal life nature. I'm not even reading anymore. Are we done? Are we done? Are we done? Are we done? Okay. Jesus! I told you guys, if you like the game, you really like the game, and there's a lot of lore you just spit out. It's fine. Let there be light! Cogito begins to manifest beyond isolated containment, allowing the anomaly to propagate through the human systems. Okay, what do we get out of that? Cognitive seeding. Okay, just a little infectivity, not much else. Cross-species, okay, so we know what that does. Abstract transmission, the ability to propagate without living hosts, allowing it to spread through non-biological means. If this all sounds a little bit like SCP-ish, it was very heavily inspired by that. So that would be part of it. What the heck are the... oh, gosh, we have enkephaline points instead of DNA? All right, fine, I'm just going to call it DNA. Let's just go ahead and grab myself a couple of symptoms. We have our emotional instability, which is kind of the entire point of this stuff, and by the way, plays a major role in the story behind the ruins... the Libraries of Runa and all that stuff, and people literally turning into monsters if they have emotional instability, so that's a problem. Perceptual fracture, okay, making it difficult to distinguish reality from internal thoughts. Sensory desync, causing brief mismatches that make everyday tasks harder, and then intrusive thoughts, interrupting normal think, and drawing attention upward. Plus, we have the grand opening of the library. Oh my god, we have the library stuff going, huh? Okay, that whole endgame story with Angela, that's going to be a thing now? All right. Okay, alright, I'm not going to get into that right now. Malkuth represents the physical world. Strength and spread through direct contact and surfaces, increasing land-based transmission. Oh my god, alright, I'm not touching it. I'm going to assume that oh my god, I'm going to assume that infectivity just propagates through people for now. Thank you. A subtle shift spreads unnoticed through the world. There's nothing out of place. Something quietly has begun. Did you need to interrupt my gameplay for that? Did you need to? You've already interrupted me like 8 times. Whatever, it's fine. Let's get the cognitive seeding. I don't know, something, valve time. That's got nothing to do with this. Although, ironically, there's a time loop thing that's going on in the game, but whatever. We'll just pretend that's not a thing for now. Sensory desync and perceptual fracture. Why? Because I want a little bit of severity. I'm trying to play this as an actual Plague Inc. scenario, knowing full well that I've spent what is usually half the time of an entire scenario just trying to get through the gosh dang lore! All right. Cognitive imprinting. That's a pretty good amount of infectivity. Oh, I'll take it. I don't even need to know why. Let's go for abstract transmission. Beyond contact. It no longer relies solely on direct interaction. Its influence now spreads to less tangible means. Yeah, you use the same sink as somebody else? Well, congratulations. Now you contracted ringworm. I'm sorry, I mean cogito or whatever. Yeah. We have a bit of a problem here in that I don't have a... What the heck? Wing 50 is Saudi Arabia. Oh, every country got a freaking number? All right, I don't like that, and here's the reason I don't like that. Numbers are inherently a lot harder for me to intuit as to what I'm looking at. If I get a pop-up saying, Wing 16 has, like, had a lethality problem, whatever, it's like killing too fast, where the frick is Wing 16? And you're gonna make me go look for it. I know why you did it, I do get it, but it's just like, oh god, that's one of those changes that actually ends up being a little bit cumbersome for the average player. We're also generating DNA way too slowly, in my opinion. What else can we do? Intrusive thoughts? Sure, why not? Just get me some gosh dang severity. But like what I was saying earlier is I don't really think that I have a way of getting out of this country easily. I don't have like air transmission and stuff, so figuring that out is going to be one of the tricks. We could go for the cross-species adaptation, and that would probably be a good one in the sense that I'll bet you it leads to a lot of like geographical or terrain transmissions that would be familiar to me. So we could do that. Mimetic spread, yeah, it's pretty good. Physical records, pretty good too. I will pick this up, but we'll go for the cross-species and stuff after that because I need to figure out other ways of getting around, right? We got to find something. So we got city carriers, carrier stabilization, which apparently allows it to reintroduce into human environments, misspelled. Okay, I don't see what this does aside from like just normal transmission, so we'll ignore it. Migratory spread for land transmission and domestic contact. It's really important if you have any of these different types of transmission vectors, they have an effect on like a particular type of terrain, to say that in the description. Very, very important. Like for now, I only know of things like city, migratory, and domestic contact. Actually, this doesn't even do anything in particular. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and pick up the land transmission because it's the only thing I know is good. Right? So if it has that, make sure you include that in the description somewhere. It doesn't have to be much, just like increases air transmission or something. It does help the average player kind of figure some stuff out. Let's go over global migration, which apparently helps with hard-to-reach regions. That might actually help me get into like free islands and stuff. You never know. Depends on how it's programmed. Unusual behavior beginning to surface. Infected individuals appear distracted, withdrawn, and slow to respond, though no clear cause has been identified. Yeah, little do y'all know you're picking up some sort of a weird, like, psychological virus-y thingy. Kind of. Sort of. Maybe. We'll say it. Externalization pressure, peripheral distortion, self-confrontation, conflicting thoughts. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I think there are supposed to be two diverging paths here because these seem somewhat contradictory. It seems like one is basically going to be pushing towards things outside of your psychological control versus things you are kind of self-actualizing. That's kind of what I'm getting out of this. So there probably are two different kinds of endings here. Not sure which one I want to take. I still have really no idea what this is supposed to do. It's free, so I'll pick it up. What is this? Does it, like, give me a spore burst? Fixers? Oh, God, we actually are getting to Libraries of Ruina now. Independent agents, take on contracts, blah, blah, blah. The city in the game is, like, broken up into, like, the affluent regions versus kind of the more rough and tumble places. It's a little bit like Cyberpunk in that way, actually. A strange structure has appeared without warning. Its purpose unknown. Those who approach report an overwhelming sense that something within is waiting. Yeah, that's a bit of a spoiler in terms of the ending of Lobotomy Corporation, but, you know, yeah, that's a thing. So wait, do we go to other zones? I mean, it said it was Wing 1, but, like, I don't know. Maybe? Smaller associations slow the cure. Okay. Lone fixers set back the cure. Okay, we found something there. Invitation extended. This is literally the library now. Okay, so we're actually just going across two different games. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe it's wrong to say that this is actually based on Lobotomy Corporation. Maybe it really is based more on Libraries of Ruina. Halting all lethality, huh? I don't see why that would be good for me at the moment. I'm going to go for the city carriers. Durable coating, persistent degradation, blah, blah, blah. Urban infestation. Yeah, densely populated areas and stuff like that. Some of this is pretty good in terms of like getting really good stats, but I think I'm going to go down this right path. I want to get some severity. Let's go for self-confrontation and conflicting thoughts, I guess. Forced actualization. Individuals begin to shape their identity under pressure, defining a sense of self at the cost of mental stability. Oh, good. So is the goal to turn everyone into monsters or to cure everyone or to liberate them into the library so they become spirits and books that are contributing toward the final singularity. I don't know. Some individuals report hearing a quiet voice guiding their thoughts, urging them to confront themselves. Most dismiss it, though the experience feels increasingly difficult to ignore. Too many thoughts. There's too many thoughts, all right. That's exactly what I was thinking. Thoughts begin to overlap and contradict one another, creating overwhelming internal pressure as individuals lose certainty in their own minds. Cure progress gets slightly slowed down. Cool. Is that because I've accidentally gone down both paths a little bit too much? Maybe. Let's go for forced actualization. The severity is still a little bit low. Like, I've spent a fair bit of time actually trying to work on some of these things here. And it looks like, yeah, I'm not getting nearly as much DNA as I might have liked. Where can I find things like... This is going to be for land-based transmission. Where can I find things like drug resistance? Oh, wait, hang on. Oh, okay, hang on. There's stuff over here that actually does give me those extra transmission spreads, like water. Okay, you have to go down this a fair bit more. These are all nonsense words that mean nothing to me, by the way, so I'm going to go ahead and pick up the drug resistance. All right, urban, arid, chesed, whatever, corpses. Hey, we have corpse transmission. All right, this is going to be easy. We're fine. Increasing transmission in poorer regions, blah, blah, blah. Air travel. Let's go for the air travel. Okay, system initialization. Malkuth begins coordinating. I don't care anymore. I'm sorry. My ability to care has suddenly fallen apart. I don't know. It's one of those things where, like, I'm not actually upset about, like, the number of pop-ups and stuff, because it's one of those things where it's clearly created by a person who is a fan of the subject material. And, like, if that's why you're creating it, that's a good thing. You know? Go for it, in my opinion. That's actually great. But as somebody who doesn't get or appreciate or fully grasp the content, the subject content, I'm just saying, like, it becomes cumbersome to me. Not to them. It's just like, it's created for an audience that's not me, basically, is what it comes down to. And I have to accept that that's just how it is. And I'm fine with it. It really does not bother me that that's the case, except that I'm trying really hard to follow, and I'm actively failing badly. Is there any rural transmission? Because I did not see that. I saw urban and stuff like that, but I didn't see anything else. I'll pick this up and just see. There it is. All right, 11 points. That's pretty reasonable. Human environments, missing a space there, but no big deal. Trying to make sure that we actually do get into places like Greenland. It's still kind of important. Or, sorry, Wing 12. More than half the population is now affected. Efforts to contain Kogito are falling behind as influence spreads faster than can be managed. Resistance is struggling to keep up. Yeah, I have noticed that so far the cure is a little on the slow side. Did we get into the Philippines? No. So guess what? Did I lose, or is there going to be a way to get in this? We can see if there's anything. Invitation extended doesn't do me a lot of good. Slow the cure. I think we lost because I didn't get into the island properly. There might be a way to do kind of a spore burst, but I'm going to go with no. All right, let me go ahead and try this again. I'll get right back up to where I was before. All right, this time it looks like Greenland is the only thing I'm actively missing, which is going to be a problem since I'm not spreading very rapidly in places like Russia. Oh, which is a problem for sure. Cold resistance and stuff, man, that's usually really important, and so far not having any of that. Things like corpse transmission doesn't do me any good if I'm not finalizing people, so I'm not getting any of the lethality going. So that's a problem. I can really kind of only try desperately to focus on getting myself some extra infectivity. Maybe with things like durable encoding, we can go for systemic integration. Let's just see what that leads to. Complete assimilation. Kogito fully assimilates into the host mental framework, sustaining itself without external reinforcement. That seems like the sort of thing I would want. Borderline a victory condition, maybe. I don't know. They're working on that cure a lot faster all of a sudden, though. I think we have to go for things like the grand opening of the library and get some fixers to slow things down. Total breakdown mutates. Okay, that's down over here. Individuals fail to reconcile their inner conflict, reaching a point of no return. Rare recovery is no longer possible, and self-harm becomes commonplace. I wonder if I'm actually messing this up. Maybe the top roots up here are actually a path instead of a left-to-right thing. Maybe. I'm going to go for peripheral distortion and slow down the cure just a little bit. Didn't do much. Okay. Well, unless we get out of Norway into Greenland, it's not going to matter. This may be a scenario where I really am not able to beat this on Mega Brutal, and I made a horrible, horrible mistake because I kind of assumed that I'd be able to play it a little bit like normally. It certainly looks like the answer to that may be a resounding no. Okay. Well, what else would help me at this point? I guess we can go for the invitation extended and just try to get some people in the library. There we go. Oh, look at that. Yep, the library begins extending its invitations. Affected individuals vanish before reaching their end, halting all lethal outcomes as they are drawn within, pauses all lethality. Doesn't matter because I'm not going to be able to get into dang Greenland. No cold resistance, and there's the shutdown. Yeah, it's got to be somewhere, dude. If you don't have cold resistance in this game, you have to adjust the base default values Otherwise, you're not going to be able to spread fast. Like, I got into Canada a while ago, and look how bad this is. So at least on Mega Brutal, this is an absolute no. Let me bring it down a little bit and try again. Nope, that doesn't work either, even on Brutal difficulty. Why? Because cold resistance is awful. All right, I'm going to try this one more time, but we're not going to start in a hot country so that we don't end up being weak in the poor countries. Let's say we start in China or something. That'll have to be fine. Something neutral. I'm also going to try going down this left route instead. Let's see if that's any better, because so far, at the very least, that has, the right's not been working for me. Yeah, I still can't get easily into places like Iceland and stuff like that. All right, I'm not going to keep trying on this one, unfortunately. I think that the big mistake here is, yeah, you need to have more transmission vectors that are useful here. There are probably some decent infection, like the amount of infection I'm getting is perfectly reasonable. That's not the issue. Your stats are actually great. And there's a lot of really good customization here, but it's very, very important, as you'll notice from the base game, that you have lots of different transmissions that affect different ways of affecting people. Whether that's going to be better urban transmission or rural transmission. What you're really missing here is early air and water, which I can find down here. So that's not a big deal. I don't know how much air and water there is. It might be equivalent to Air 1 and Air 2, maybe not. But that could be one problem, so getting from places into others can be an issue. But also, you're missing a bit of early rural transmission, which can be very important, and most importantly, above all else, resistances. It's really important to have sufficient ways of overcoming cold, heat, and or drug resistance. So far, I have only found drug resistance, and I have no idea how good it is. I assume it's basically the same as drug resistance level 1. So basically, though, what we've got here is just definitive proof on how this works. It's just like, I can get into places, again, like Russia. I've been in Russia practically from the beginning, and look how far behind it is. And that's because, when it comes to humid, cold, and rural transmission, those vectors are too low. Even though I have really good stats, those vectors are too low, and I haven't got enough good ways of overcoming that. So I believe on a lower difficulty, like on normal or easy difficulty, could I still make it work? Yeah, probably. Or I could just go for nothing but infections and ignore all severity and try to get by that way. But that's slow and not exactly fun. My recommendation, if you're going to do this, go ahead and lean more in on that somewhere. I'm not sure where. I'm not sure where you want to fit it in. That's up to you. But like, I would find a way to at least get in more rural transmission and, oh my God, please, 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 some resistances. Absolutely key. As far as the overall scenario, from what I've been able to tell, looks like this goes down the ego route. This goes down an abnormality route because I can start creating some over here. What's this? The Snow Queen? I've got no idea what that's supposed to be. Emergent sentience, different kinds of abnormalities and stuff. Like, the content is good in the sense that I can tell this is a fan who's gone really deep. But as somebody who doesn't know a lot about a lobotomy corporation, a WOW, a W-A-W anomaly, a he abnormality, or a TETH abnormality means absolutely nothing to me. So this is going to go over a lot of people's heads. That is not inherently a bad thing. I want to make this very, very clear. It is not inherently a bad thing that I and the average person can't just pick it up and immediately get it, all right? Sometimes it's going to be something kind of niche. Sure, I'll just pick this up for the heck of it. Why not? Queen of Hatred, Mountain of Smiling Bodies. What the frick have I stumbled into? Anyway, yeah, it's okay that people don't immediately know what's going on. That's totally fine, because if it's created for a particular niche audience, you want to go ahead and just make it a fan project, a passion project, a love letter to something that you actually strongly enjoy. I think that's a great thing. I'm not going to discourage it. I am going to tell you it's difficult for me to rate any of this and how good it is because I don't know the subject material. I do know there's a frick ton of customization. A lot of that was put in here. So you put a ton of work into the scenario and it shows. And that's awesome. And for the most part, I think you did a good job. I think it's just some of those glaring balance issues that are going to mess things up. If you can get those fixed, and even just change some of these out to be your resistances, or just overwrite the base values of the scenario so that, you know, heat and cold don't matter, well, then you're going to be fine. And then this is actually going to be very achievable on a Mega Brutal, and people will just explore it and find out more about Lobotomy Corporation, about Libraries of Ruina, and see if they can have some fun with something like that. So I'm going to go ahead and stop on this one, but they asked for feedback, so I'm giving feedback. That's what I would probably say. Otherwise, though, holy crap, that's one of the most involved scenarios I have seen in a long time, so I can't be angry about that, not at all. Thank you all very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Leave some comments and feedback for the author, especially if you are fans of things like Lobotomy Corporation. I'm sure they would very much appreciate it so that they can figure out how to make this, you know, fine-tuned and also really appeal to that same audience even better. So if you have that idea, go ahead and leave a comment down below. Otherwise, I would ask you to hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys next time.